Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Hello and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics with your host, Rosa DeCandia. Yes, my friends, we don't do recaps here, but the last chapter, that was a doozy. So before we just even start blathering, we are going to proceed back to The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Chapter 13, The Rescue. The Cowardly Lion was much pleased to hear that the Wicked Witch had been melted by a bucket of water, and Dorothy at once unlocked the gate of his prison and set him free. Woo, freedom! They went in together to the castle, where Dorothy's first act was to call the Winkies together and tell them that they were no longer slaves. There was great rejoicing among the yellow Winkies, for they had been made to work hard during many years for the Wicked Witch, who had always treated them with great cruelty. They kept this day as a holiday, then and after, and spent the time in feasting and dancing. "If our friends the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were only with us," said the Lion, "I should be quite happy." "Don't you suppose we could rescue them?" asked the girl anxiously. "We can try," answered the Lion. So they called the yellow Winkies and asked them if they would help to rescue their friends. And the Winkies said that they would be delighted to do all in their power for Dorothy, who had set them free from bondage. Well, ain't that the truth? Because she could have been like, "Now you're going to listen to me." But she's a nice girl, right? She don't know about the power she got anyway. So she chose a number of the Winkies who looked as if they knew the most, and they all started away. They traveled that day and part of the next until they came to the rocky plain where the Tin Woodman lay, all battered and bent. His axe was near him, but the blade was rusted and the handle broken off short. The Winkies lifted him tenderly in their arms and carried him back to the yellow castle again, Dorothy shedding a few tears by the way at the sad plight of her old friend, and the Lion looking sober and sorry. When they reached the castle, Dorothy said to the Winkies, "Are any of your people tinsmiths?" "Oh, yes. Some of us are very good tinsmiths," they told her. "Then bring them to me," she said. And when the tinsmiths came, bringing with them all their tools and baskets, she inquired, "Can you straighten out those dents in the Tin Woodman and bend him back into shape again and solder him together where he is broken?" The tinsmiths looked the Woodman over carefully and then answered that they thought they could mend him so he would be as good as ever. So they set to work in one of the big yellow rooms of the castle and worked for 3 days and 4 nights, hammering and twisting and bending and soldering and polishing and pounding at the legs and the body and the head of the Tin Woodman, until at last he was straightened out into his old form, and his joints worked as well as ever. To be sure, there were several patches on him, but the tinsmith did a good job, and as the Woodman was not a vain man, he did not mind the patches at all. Well, those are kind of like his war wounds, his scars, right? He's been through a war. He's been fighting off wolves and frickin' bees and shit, and now he's gotten thrown into a ditch, and now he's got a little bit of war wounds. Well, you know what? I'm glad they could take care of him. Oh, you see how they're just being provided for constantly? That's all I'm gonna say. When at last he walked into Dorothy's room and thanked her for rescuing him, he was so pleased that he wept tears of joy, and Dorothy had to wipe every tear carefully from his face with her apron so his joints would not be rusted. At the same time, her own tears fell thick and fast at the joy of meeting her old friends again, and these tears did not need to be wiped away. Of course, she's human. As for the Lion, he wiped his eyes so often with the tip of his tail that it became quite wet, and he was obliged to go out into the courtyard and hold it in the sun till it dried. Oh, that's good. He's got his own hanky. That's not a bad deal, huh? "If we only had the Scarecrow with us again," said the Tin Woodman when Dorothy had finished telling him everything that had happened. "I should be quite happy." "We must try to find him," said the girl. So she called the Winkies to help her, and they walked all that day and part of the night until they came to the tall tree in the branches of which the winged monkeys had tossed the Scarecrow's clothes. It was a very tall tree, and the trunk was so smooth that no one could climb it. But the Woodman said at once, "I'll chop it down, and then we can get the Scarecrow's clothes." Now, while the tinsmiths had been at work mending the Woodman himself, another of the Winkies, who was a goldsmith, had made an axe handle of solid gold and fitted it to the Woodman's axe instead of the old broken handle. Others polished the blade until all the rust was removed and it glistened like burnished silver. First of all, there's rubies, there's this, What is in this country? There's gold. They've got nothing but like riches. And these Winkies have been enslaved by this bitch, the witch, who's now dead. When they have all this stuff, I would be like, flee in the middle of the night. Take the gold. Take the shit you have and get out. But why does this country so prosperous? What are they doing that we ain't doing? Anyway, let's not get on that. As soon as he had spoken, the Tin Woodman began to chop. And in a short time, the tree fell over with a crash. Whereupon, the Scarecrow's clothes fell out of the branches and rolled off on the ground. Dorothy picked them up and had the Winkies carry them back to the castle, where they were stuffed with nice clean straw. And behold, here was the Scarecrow, as good as ever, thanking them over and over again for saving him. Now that they were reunited, Dorothy and her friends spent a few happy days at the Yellow Castle, where they found everything they needed to make them comfortable. But one day, the girl thought of Aunt Em and said, "We must go back to Oz and claim his promise. You bet your sweet ass you went through all this shit. You better get what you asked for. He told you and sent you on this whole friggin' journey. It's time, girl. You tell him, listen, wizard, Mr. Bitch ass, you give me what I asked for. I did you a solid. Now where's my solid?" That's all I'm saying. "Yes," said the Woodman, "at last I shall get my heart. And I shall get my brains," added the Scarecrow joyfully. "And I shall get my courage," said the Lion thoughtfully. "And I shall get back to Kansas," cried Dorothy, clapping her hands. "Oh, let us start for the Emerald City tomorrow." This they decided to do. The next day they called the Winkies together and bade them goodbye. The Winkies were sorry to have them go, and they had grown so fond of the Tin Woodman that they begged him to stay and rule over them and the Yellow Land of the West. Finding they were determined to go, the Winkies gave Toto and the Lion each a golden collar, and to Dorothy they presented a beautiful bracelet studded with diamonds. Jesus, that's what I'm saying. They have all this stuff. Where are you getting it from? And to the Scarecrow, they gave a gold-headed walking stick to keep him from stumbling. And to the Tin Woodman, they offered a silver oil can inlaid with gold and set with precious jewels. Every one of the travelers made the Winkies a pretty speech in return, and all shook hands with them until their arms ached. Dorothy went to the witch's cupboard to fill her basket with food for the journey. Always smart, very resourceful. And there she saw the golden cap. Once again, she don't even know about this. She tried it on her own head and found that it fitted her exactly. She did not know anything about the charm of the golden cap, but she saw that it was pretty. So she made up her mind to wear it and carry a sunbonnet in the basket. Probably matched those silver shoes just beautifully. Look at this. Okay, Dorothy knows. Dorothy likes a little glitz and glam. I'm telling you, Dorothy's also an Italian chick from Jersey. She just don't know it. Then, being prepared for the journey, they all started for the Emerald City, and the Winkies gave them 3 cheers and many good wishes to carry with them. We all love, well, it's not ended. That was just a short chapter, but we do love that they're on the road again, and now they are ready and they're arsenaled, and they're going to get what is due them. Because A, they were asked, B, they've accomplished their goal, and C, it's now time to claim that shit. So let's think about this. Dorothy and her friends have been reunited. The Winkies are so happy that they're free. They're like, of course, we're going to help you. Just like them saving the field mouse, right? The Tin Woodman, and she happened to be the queen. You see, one good turn deserves another. We're seeing reciprocity all over this friggin' book. Everything is about you give, you get. You give, you receive. You receive, you give. It's back and forth. It's a beautiful thing. So once again, the theme of giving and getting, the reciprocity is all over this book. And what I think is interesting is the fact that, they could stay in this castle. Oh, and the fact they want to make the Tin Woodman their leader. Oh, but I don't understand this. Winkies, you've been enslaved and you had the Wicked Witch enslave you all these years. You have jewels and everything. You're telling me you can't elect one of your own to be the leader of your group? Come on, people. You got to stand up. And that's the thing. Their minds, they're so used to being enslaved. They don't even know to, be like, okay, let's have our own government now. But I'm sure once these kids leave, we're not going to hear about the Winkies again, but I'm assuming they come up with their own government. But I guess because they've been beaten down for so many years, we don't even know how many years, to be honest with you. We don't know how many days have passed. We don't know how long Dorothy's been enslaved by the witch in the previous chapter. They just don't tell us. So time is really not important anyway. I digress. Point is this. I love the fact that Dorothy realized, now Dorothy, once again, can stay in this castle. She can be, like the facade of the castle, having all these Winkies do what she wants and everything, and they could all live a nice fat life, right? They could all be like, okay, this is better than nothing. We didn't even expect all this, and especially with all these riches, they could have a really hot life, right? Yet, Dorothy still wants to go home. And the Tin Woodman still wants his heart, and the Scarecrow his brains, and the Lion wants his courage. And the thing is this, they have not lost their desire, and their eye on the prize is still where it needs to be for themselves. So what I just want to say, I think we talked about this before, not being deterred or distracted with the facade of shit that's not reality, but sticking true to who you really are and what your desires are and your visions and goals. Now, we've talked about this too. Sometimes you do get deterred or distracted, and it also enhances your personality or character, and it helps you determine maybe there's a new goal that you have in your life. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do love how they have their convictions, and that Dorothy says, you know what? We are going to call upon Oz, and we are going to get that promise because we did what he asked us to do. And now it is time for us to claim, which tells me Dorothy now has known, but really knows her worth and her value, and she's ready to claim it. And I think that's what's really important, that she stands in her truth and is like, you know what? We did what he wanted us to do. We're going back. I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going back and we're going to claim our prizes. And that's like us. We do the hard work. We put in the hours. We put in the discipline. This is if you're, with a job and say you're being promised a raise or a promotion or what have you. You would hope that you get rewarded. Sometimes we work hard and we feel like we're being overlooked. And sometimes we are being overlooked. But if we don't speak up for when we think that it's time for us to, if we've worked hard, that means if we've worked hard, that we have to ask for what we want. Because you know what? People can't read our minds. And if you're in a work situation where you feel like I've paid my dues, I've done the work, I'm giving 150%, I give my time, my discipline, and I've been here a while and I haven't gotten a raise, you know what? You're worthy enough to sit down with your superior and ask for the raise, or ask and say, I'd like to be considered for the promotion if someone's getting promoted in the company and you find out like there's an open available spot. So I think it's really also about taking advantage of an opportunity, knowing that when you've put the work in like they have and done the job, that you should be able to claim reward. Now, with that being said, doesn't mean you may not get the promotion. There might be someone that's a better fit. Doesn't mean you may not get the money or the raise you want, the full amount, but at least now they know that you are inquiring, and maybe you guys can come up with a compromise where maybe you will get more money. Or it makes you get so confident about all the work you do, and if you feel like your company doesn't appreciate you after you've asked for a raise and they said no, or you've asked for a promotion and they're like, no, and you feel like the person who got it, or the person who got it was like nepotism and it's bullshit, it actually forces you to say, you know what? I'm out of here. These people don't deserve me. And that's another thing too. And it's also like friendships. You know what? You've done good for people, and when you need them and you ask them, be like, hey, listen, I need a solid. You shouldn't have to tell them all the solids you've done for them. But when you ask them and they suddenly are nowhere to be found, then you know who your good friends are and who your friends aren't, right? And that's another thing too. So I think it's great that Dorothy knows that hey, we did our end of the bargain. It's time for us to claim it. So where in your life are you not claiming your, what's due you? Now, once again, you have to allow for, there's other circumstances. However, there's nothing wrong with once you've put in the hard work and everything and the discipline or what have you and done good things for others, that when you do ask, you ask in an obviously grateful, gracious, and polite way. I'm not saying you walk into your friend and be like, yo, I need help because I did all this shit for you. We're not talking about that. But when you realize that you are worthy of that, what happens, you don't mind asking. And then you find out who's got your back and who doesn't. Now, sometimes the person may not be able to help you. That's different. We've discussed that too. That means maybe they just can't help you, but it doesn't mean that they may not be able to send you to somebody that can help you. So I just think it's about knowing your worth, to know that when you've done the time and the work and put all the good work and you're disciplined, you do ask sometimes because people don't know. Your boss may not know. Your friends may not know. Your family members, the person you're in a relationship may not know that you need a little bit more because if you're not asking for it. So all I'm going to say is you get what you give. So what are you giving? And also, if you're giving a lot, are you also being open to receive? Once again, it's very hard for givers to receive, and we've got to learn that. But also, if you're only just receiving, not that you're a bad person, but I'm just going to encourage you and challenge you to start starting to give. So if you've received a lot from somebody, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, you know what? Maybe you think about something that you can do some nice for them. Because I think it's, once again, it makes us a full person when we know how to give as well as receive. And remember, when you give to somebody, you're giving them the gift of learning how to receive. And then also when you receive from somebody, you're giving them the gift of learning how to give. So it's a win-win situation. You're both receiving in the end. All right, my friends. Well, I'm wishing you a most blessed day. And I want to thank you so much for paying attention and hopefully finding some inspiration and entertainment from all this. As you all know, this is not therapy. This is more of a lighthearted way to just find the joy, find the inspiration and motivation to just be you, to love yourself more, to stand in your truth more, and to show your authenticity even more, because you are worth it. You are enough. And you know what? Everything is within you. All right, my friends, stay beautiful, stay blessed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.